If you're buying a new to you house, it's natural to see the potential and want to make changes right away. And you can see all of the flaws and all of the potential. And sometimes you have more financial wiggle room because you've just sold a house. So you have the proceeds from that house to put towards some of these larger projects. And when we moved into this house, we made several changes just upon moving in. And today I want to share with you the changes that we decided to make and what I am glad we did and what I maybe would have done differently if we had done it in a different order. I saw that this house had a lot of potential, and I don't mind living in a house that I chip away at over the years. I think that's kind of fun, but I really wanted to see this house, at least in some of the key areas, really come together quickly so that it felt just as much like home as our old home had felt. So let me share with you a few tips based on what I've learned from making those upgrades just upon moving in a couple of years ago. Number one, I would encourage you to consider working with what you have. In our house, we had white cabinets and we had very basic white quartz countertops and floors that I wouldn't have picked, but I do like. They're just a medium stain. We had nice appliances, but again, in a color that I wouldn't have picked. I would not have picked to do black appliances, but I wanted to work with as many things like that as I could. And so I chose to really try to pull things together with the elements that I felt like I could live with, which were the wall color, the cabinets, the basic countertops, and the floors. And then I added other elements in to kind of tie everything together. In our kitchen, I decided to take down the upper cabinets and then just rearrange them. I actually eliminated one cabinet and then I had a custom range hood built, and I moved the microwave off to the side so that it was less of a focal point. And then the previous homeowner had maybe done like a weekend DIY, first time ever installing tile job in our kitchen. And so they had a mosaic backsplash that really went with nothing. And so I had the backsplash removed and also the little 4-inch slab splash removed, and went ahead and installed a beveled marble subway tile that pulled both the black from the appliances and the caramel from the floor and gave me that veining that I missed from my old house and my old countertops with these countertops that were more simple. And it really pulled it together beautifully. I was able to create the look of a lot more symmetry and a beautiful focal point around the range. And I worked with the things that I already had. I just moved things around a little bit. Number two, replace what would be a nightmare to replace later. When we moved into this house, the carpet had literal holes in it. I mean, there were areas that maybe had been so stained that they just cut the carpet out in that area. You could see cushion or in some cases subfloor underneath it. And those things had mostly been hidden by furniture. So while we knew that the carpet needed to be replaced, I knew that upon walking in based on the condition of it. I don't know that I knew when we were walking through this house that it was truly not in a condition that you could have even lived on it. But good news, I knew that replacing carpet would be easiest if we did it when we didn't have any contents in the house yet. So we actually had carpet put in this house before our movers ever came. And that just saved time and money because our carpet was able to be installed throughout our whole house in just one day. And we didn't have to do any of the prep work to like get furniture out of the rooms or anything or contents out of the rooms because it was already empty from the previous homeowner and we hadn't brought our things in yet. And it just went such a long way in making our house like look and smell and be cleaner. And so we were super thankful that we tackled that from the get-go. So this is probably a good time to just remind you that if you have like one bathroom in the house that you're buying, or if you have hardwood floors that you're wanting to change the color of, definitely those two projects are easiest done before you move into the house. So if at all possible, go ahead and tackle something like that. And number three, add character. Especially in newer homes, they just have nothing cool about them unless you did it yourself. So that was something that I really wanted to add to this house. It didn't really have a whole lot of flair to it, and that's great because that meant there was nothing to remove. I just needed to add things to it to give it a lot more interest. So in our living room, we had this really ugly mantle that didn't go with anything. I'm really not sure what that was all about. And we also had floor tile around the mantle. And so that was something that I immediately wanted to tackle. And I just had large crown molding. I ordered 9-inch crown molding and had our trim carpenter miter the corners of it and just make me a beautiful understated mantle. And then I had a tile setter install this really pretty cream antique looking brick around the fireplace. Those are such classic materials, and it just made this fireplace really begin to look like the more traditional aesthetic that I really favor. Our house, we also had several areas that just kind of demanded either giant furniture pieces or built-ins. In our living room, we had this like 11-foot long alcove that I felt like you could park a bus in. And what's nice is it allows you to put a really large TV in the space, but have it be kind of hidden from view. But we went ahead and added built-ins into this area. And though these built-ins are largely empty, I have one cabinet that has games in it, and then the glass cabinets have quilts on display, but the rest of these cabinets are really pretty much empty. And so I don't really need the storage, but I did need something to fill the space. And that's why I decided to do built-ins, because if we ever leave this house, I don't have to take my giant 10-foot long piece of furniture that was purchased just for this giant space and hope that I can translate it into another house. I just have added value to this house, and the future owner can fill it up with as much stuff as they want. But I think it looks really nice. It adds a lot of charm, and it really adds a lot of value to the house too. We have another space like that up in our bedroom. Our bedroom is enormous. Like, you could fit 2 king beds and a seating area in there, but that doesn't really work for the way that we use the space. So I needed to figure out how to kind of bring the walls in that space a little bit. So we have a vaulted ceiling in there, and one of the things that we did is we added wood planking on the ceiling. I just purchased hardwood flooring that I thought was pretty, that was already pre-finished, and that was a really economical way to do it because I wasn't and it wasn't very messy too, because remember, it was being installed over freshly installed carpet, and so that just made it super easy to be able to tackle that project. And we just love how cozy and warm that makes that space feel, and it really adds a lot of character. And then we also had another 11-foot alcove in that space, and that one was under a window. So we decided to have a window seat put in. And again, we could have put storage drawers or something like that in there, but I had no need for storage like that in our bedroom. And so I went ahead and just had a simple window seat built by our trim carpenter, and it was less than $1,000 to do that, and it really fills out the space. I put a couple of pillows on there. I think ultimately I will put a cushion on there, and I think that that will really just be a cozy look. And again, it makes the room feel smaller, which in our case is what we needed. And then my plan was to put built-ins on this other large wall in our room, and I was going to use that for our TV and everything. I didn't want dressers in there because I think it's a pain to have to go like back and forth from your closet to your bedroom in order to get dressed. And so I like to have our dresser just in our closet, but I did want something to make it feel like the TV made any sense on the giant, again, 11-foot wall on that space. And so my original plan was to do built-ins. I had figured out what we would need to order and everything for that. And then I came across this piece of furniture on Facebook Marketplace for $300. It was like purple, and it was kind of ugly when I bought it, but I spent almost the entire summer painting it piece by piece and changing out the hardware, and then I spent some time styling it with things that are just special memories from my husband and I's life together. And I have really loved how much that has added to the space, and it almost looks built in because it's just an inch shy of the width that I needed for that area. And I only spent $300, so I probably saved $3,000 even by the time I painted it and replaced hardware on it on built-ins. So that is a huge win in my book, especially for an area that you're just not gonna see as much. It's mostly my husband and I that see it, but for me, it adds a lot of enjoyment. Now, number 4, look carefully before diving in. And this is probably one area where I do have a little bit of regret. So When we visited this house, I could tell that the shower in the primary bathroom really, like something was going on. It had some mold that was visible, and it also had an odor, and that made me wonder like how far the mold issue had gone. I really didn't want to discover that like by having the bathroom fall through the ceiling, you know? And well, that's an unlikely situation. That is what I imagined it to be. And when I had just looked at the house during the inspection and everything, I felt like the flooring in the bathroom and the other tile was just fine, and that I could live with it and just do the shower and really not do anything else to this bathroom. Now, once we got into this house, I mean, the shower was already done, and I'm glad that we did it because it is really nice that it's a nice, clean space to enjoy. That said, I did spend a lot of time picking that tile based on the existing tile, thinking that the existing tile would stay. And while it will stay for probably several more years, ultimately that tile needs to be replaced. It's actually cracked in several areas, and I hadn't noticed that when I was doing the walkthrough in the house. And the tub deck is just enormous. It's a monstrosity. And right now I'm content with it because my son loves to line up all his bath toys and use it as a racetrack, and it's making me feel content with that space. But ultimately, I'd love to replace that with a freestanding tub and replace the cracked tile with new tile. So I think I'm still glad that I did that project because, like I said, it was kind of gross. But I do wonder if I would have done it differently if I had known that the rest of the bathroom also kind of had a future to the project. Number 5, upgrade the basics. It makes such a difference. So we had some pretty basic builder grade light fixtures in this house, and then also some of the bathrooms and cabinets had hardware, and then some of them did not. And so we did go ahead and upgrade the hardware, both the like towel rings and bath hardware, and then also the cabinet hardware and the lighting throughout the spaces. Now, we didn't upgrade every single light fixture. I just chose key fixtures to do, but I really think it made a phenomenal difference. We added some sconces in our bedroom, sconces in our kitchen, and then we also did a really pretty dining light that felt more appropriately scaled for the space. And then we did hardware on the cabinets. In our kitchen, they already had hardware on them, but they were like really very contemporary looking, like a stainless bar pole, and they were giant. They were 7-inch poles, which I think is really too big. You know, I still feel like the hardware in my kitchen looks a little bit too big, but you know, the holes were already there, so I needed to find a way to work with them. And so I chose something that is much more my taste. It's more transitional and gives it like a lot more interest and warmth, I think, than what the previous hardware was, and just starts to move it in the direction of what I really like for the style of this house. And so making those changes was fairly inexpensive, honestly, and just makes such a beautiful difference in the house. My advice for doing a handful of projects just upon moving in, and I am sure that this house, for as long as we live in it, will have other projects to do. So I hope you'll stick around and subscribe and like this video for more videos like this.